Hannah stood before the imperial court, her head held high despite the chains on her wrists. The grand hall of justice on her home planet shone with golden light, but she felt no warmth. 5 judges looked down at her from their high seats, their faces showing no emotion. "You have spoken against the Empire's expansion," said the chief judge. "You have questioned our right to grow and spread across the stars. This is a serious crime." Hannah knew she should feel afraid, but she didn't. She was 23 years old, born into one of the noble families of the Lyran Empire. Her crime? She had written articles about how the Empire treated the people of other worlds. "Your family name has saved you from prison," the chief judge continued. "Instead, we have chosen a different punishment, one that will teach you humility." Hannah watched as a hologram appeared in the center of the court. It showed a blue planet, Earth. She had studied it in her classes. Humans lived there. The Empire thought they were primitive because they had only recently learned to travel in space. "You will serve as a household servant to a human," announced the judge. "For 1 Earth year, you will live among these primitive people. You will learn what it means to be powerless." Whispers filled the court. Some people laughed. Hannah's parents, watching from their special seats, looked away in shame. Being sent to serve a human was worse than prison in their eyes. "The human's name is Li Jin," said the judge. "He lives in a place called New Seoul. You will clean his home, prepare his meals, and obey his commands. Perhaps then you will understand why the Empire must rule." Later that day, guards took Hannah to a small spaceship. She had to leave all her fine clothes behind. They gave her simple gray clothes to wear instead. As the ship lifted off, she watched her beautiful home world grow smaller through the window. "You're lucky," said one of the guards. "Most criminals who speak against the Empire disappear forever. Your family's name is the only thing that saved you." Hannah didn't answer. In her mind, she was thinking about Earth and this human called Li Jin. The Empire said humans were violent and primitive. They said humans couldn't be trusted. But Hannah had read different stories, secret articles written by people who had really visited Earth. These stories told of human kindness, of their art and music, of their desire to learn and grow. The journey to Earth took 3 days. Hannah spent most of it looking out the window at the stars. She thought about her comfortable life as a noble, now lost. She thought about her crime, simply questioning why the Empire had to control every world it found. When they entered Earth's atmosphere, Hannah saw the lights of cities below. New Seoul shone like a sea of stars on the ground. The ship landed at a special station where Empire officials kept watch over Earth. "Remember," said the head official as he put a tracking device on her wrist, "you are now property. If you try to escape, if you try to tell humans about our true power, you will face real prison. Do you understand?" "Yes," Hannah said softly. They put her in a car that drove itself through the streets of New Seoul. Hannah watched the city through the windows. It was different from her home, but not primitive at all. The buildings were tall and beautiful. People walked the streets wearing colorful clothes. Screens and holograms lit up the night. The car stopped at an apartment building. It wasn't as grand as her family's palace, but it looked clean and modern. As she stepped out of the car, Hannah took a deep breath of Earth air. It smelled different, fresher somehow. "Apartment 1544, said the car's computer. "Li Jin is expecting you." Hannah walked into the building, her heart beating fast. She had no idea what waited for her behind that apartment door. Would this human be cruel? Would he treat her like the animal the Empire said humans were? She pressed the button for the elevator, watching the numbers count up to the 15th floor. Each second brought her closer to her new life. Her punishment, but somewhere deep inside, past her fear and uncertainty, Hannah felt something else. Hannah stood in front of apartment 1544, her hand frozen before the door. She had been trained since birth to hold her head high, but now she kept her eyes down, just as she had been instructed. The hallway was quiet except for the soft hum of the building's air system. She pressed the doorbell once, waiting for her first glimpse of the human who would be her master. The door opened, and she bowed low, just as the officials had taught her. "Hello," said a quiet voice. "You must be Hannah." She looked up slowly. The human man standing in the doorway was not what she had expected. Li Jin was tall and slim, wearing simple clothes, dark pants, and a white shirt with rolled-up sleeves. His face was kind, with gentle eyes behind round glasses. He looked about 30 years old. "Yes, sir," she said in a soft voice. "I am here to serve." Jin stepped back from the door, looking uncomfortable. "Please come in," he said. "And you don't need to call me sir. Jin is fine." Hannah entered the apartment carefully. It was clean and organized, with large windows showing the city lights. Plants grew in pots near the windows, and books filled the shelves along one wall. The air smelled like fresh coffee. The officials explained everything. Jin said, closing the door, "But I want to be clear about something." He turned to face her. "I don't believe in owning people. I don't want a servant, and I certainly don't want a slave." Hannah felt confused. This wasn't what she had been prepared for. Where was the cruel human she had been warned about? "But the Empire's law says," she began. "I know what their law says," Jin interrupted gently. "But this is my home, and here we'll follow different rules." He walked over to a door and opened it. "This will be your room. Not a servant's quarters. Your room. It has its own bathroom, and I've put fresh towels and some basic things you might need." Hannah looked into the room with surprise. It was beautiful, with a comfortable bed, a desk, and another window with a view of the city. There were even flowers in a vase on the small table. "I don't understand," she said. "You're supposed to punish me." Jin shook his head. "I'm an environmental engineer. I spend my days trying to heal damaged ecosystems and make the world better. Hurting people isn't something I'm interested in." He smiled slightly. "Would you like some coffee? Or tea? You must be tired from your journey." Hannah felt tears forming in her eyes, but she blinked them away. Nobles didn't cry, even former nobles. "Tea would be nice," she said quietly. They sat at Jin's kitchen table, drinking tea from blue ceramic cups. Jin asked her about her journey but didn't push when she gave short answers. Instead, he told her about his work, about his projects to clean polluted rivers and design better solar power systems. "You'll need clothes and other things," he said after a while. "We can go shopping tomorrow if you feel up to it. The officials left a credit card for your expenses." "You would be seen in public with me?" Hannah asked, surprised again. "But I'm a criminal." Jin looked at her thoughtfully. "You questioned authority and spoke up for what you believed was right. Where I come from, we call those people heroes, not criminals." Hannah stared into her teacup, not sure what to say. Everything she knew about humans was being proved wrong. The Empire had told her they were primitive and cruel, but this human treated her with more kindness than her own people had. "Get some rest," Jin said, standing up. "Your door has a lock, and you can use it. This is your home now for as long as you're here. You're not a prisoner, and you're not a servant. You're my guest." That night, lying in the comfortable bed, Hannah looked out at the Earth City lights. They weren't so different from the lights of home. She thought about Jin's words, about being a guest rather than a servant. For the first time since her sentence, she felt something like peace. Perhaps this punishment would turn out to be something else entirely. A month had passed since Hannah's arrival on Earth. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen windows as she watched Jin prepare breakfast. He moved with careful precision, measuring rice and water for the morning meal. "Would you like to learn?" Jin asked, noticing her interest. "This is how my grandmother taught me to make rice." Hannah nodded and stepped closer to the kitchen counter. On her world, nobles never cooked. Machines or servants prepared all meals, but here on Earth, she had discovered that cooking was considered an art. "The secret is washing the rice properly," Jin explained, demonstrating the gentle motion with his hands. "See how the water becomes clear. That's when you know it's ready. As they worked together, Hannah told Jin about the food on her world. She described the floating gardens where rare fruits grew, and the grand feasts that lasted for days. Jin listened with genuine interest, asking questions about how they grew food in space. "Your world sounds amazing," he said, setting the rice cooker. "But you seemed surprised by Earth too." "The Empire told us humans were primitive," Hannah admitted. "But everything here is different from what I expected. Yesterday, I saw children in the park reading books about space travel. On my world, only nobles are allowed to study such things." Jin smiled as he prepared some vegetables for their meal. "Knowledge belongs to everyone," he said. "That's what we believe. Speaking of which, would you like to see where I work today?" Hannah's eyes widened. "Is that allowed? You're not a prisoner, remember. Besides, I think you'll find it interesting. We're testing new ways to clean polluted soil using special plants." Later that day, Hannah stood in Jin's laboratory, watching as he showed her the experiments. Rows of plants grew under special lights, their roots cleaning harmful chemicals from contaminated earth. The other scientists greeted her warmly, treating her like any other visitor. "These plants can heal the damage we once did to our planet," Jin explained, showing her the test results on his computer. "Every day, we learn more about working with nature instead of against it." Hannah thought about her own world, where technology had replaced nature entirely. "The Empire believes controlling nature shows power," she said quietly. "But this seems more advanced somehow." On their way home, they stopped at a traditional market. Hannah had grown to love these places, so different from the sterile shopping centers of her world. The smell of street food filled the air, and people called out friendly greetings to each other. "Try this," Jin said, buying 2 cups of sweet rice drink. "It's called siki. My mother used to make it for special occasions." As they walked and drank their siki, Hannah saw a group of street musicians playing traditional instruments. The music was unlike anything she had heard before, both ancient and somehow new. "Would you like to learn an instrument?" Jin asked, seeing her interest. "Music is another thing that belongs to everyone here." That evening, they sat in the apartment's living room. Jin showed Hannah how to hold a small guitar, teaching her simple chords. Her fingers felt clumsy on the strings, but Jin was patient. "In the Empire, art and music are for entertaining nobles," Hannah said, carefully trying to make a clear note. "But here, people make music for joy." "Joy is the best reason to make anything," Jin replied. "That's what makes Earth different, I think. We create because we love to create, not to show power or status." Hannah looked at her hands on the guitar strings, then out at the city lights. Each day showed her something new about Earth, something that made her question everything she had been taught. The Empire had sent her here as punishment, but instead, she was discovering a freedom she had never known existed. The official from the Lyran Empire arrived without warning on a rainy morning. Hannah was helping Jin organize his research papers when the doorbell rang. When they opened the door, she immediately recognized the dark uniform and stern face of Imperial Officer Kai. "This is an inspection," Officer Kai announced, stepping into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. His cold eyes moved from Hannah to Jin, then around the living room. "We have received concerning reports about this arrangement." Jin stood straight, his usually gentle face showing unusual firmness. "What kind of reports?" "The criminal appears to be living in comfort," Officer Kai said, walking through the apartment. He stopped at Hannah's room, noting the books on her desk and the small potted plant by her window. "This is not acceptable. She was sent here for punishment, not vacation." Hannah felt her heart beating faster. She had known this might happen. The Empire always checked on its prisoners, but now she worried about what they might do to Jin. "Hannah is my guest," Jin said calmly. "How I treat her in my home is my decision." Officer Kai turned sharply. "You forget your place, human. She is Empire property, sentenced to serve as your slave. Yet I find her reading science books and living like an equal. This defeats the purpose of her punishment. Jin stepped forward. On Earth, we don't believe in slavery. We don't believe in treating people as property. Your beliefs are irrelevant, Officer Kai said. The Empire's law is clear. The criminal must be properly punished. She must learn her place. He looked at Hana. Pack your things. You will be relocated to a more suitable household. Hana felt cold fear in her stomach, but before she could speak, Jin moved to stand between her and the officer. No, Jin said firmly. The Empire gave Hana into my custody for 1 year. That was the agreement. You can't change it now. Officer K's face turned red with anger. You dare to challenge the Empire's authority. He reached for a device on his belt, likely a communicator to call for backup. I dare to stand up for what's right, Jin replied. His voice remained calm, but Hana could see the tension in his shoulders. If you want to take Hana away, you'll need to go through Earth's legal system first. I've already filed papers making her my legal ward under Earth law. Hana looked at Jin in surprise. She hadn't known about this. He had taken legal steps to protect her. Officer K's hand dropped from his communicator. His face showed both anger and calculation. This will be reported to the Imperial Court. There will be consequences. Then reported, Jin said. But Hana stays here. After Officer Kai left, Hana sat heavily on the couch, her hands shaking. Why did you do that? The Empire is powerful. They could hurt you, destroy your career. Jin sat next to her, his own hand steady as he poured them both tea. Because it was the right thing to do. No one deserves to be treated as property, especially not someone who only spoke up for what she believed in. Hana looked at him, seeing him differently now. He wasn't just the quiet engineer anymore. He was someone who would stand up to an empire to protect what he believed was right. They won't stop, she warned. The Empire never gives up control easily. Then we'll face whatever comes together, Jin said simply. He handed her a cup of tea, and their fingers touched briefly. Hana felt warmth spread through her chest, and she knew it wasn't just from the tea. That evening, as they ate dinner, Hana noticed how Jin kept glancing at his computer, checking for messages from the Empire. She saw the worry in his eyes, even though he tried to hide it. She realized then that he had risked everything to protect her. And she realized something else too, something that both thrilled and frightened her. She was falling in love with him. 2 messages arrived on the same day, changing everything. Hana received hers in the morning through her tracking device. Jin got his in the afternoon through his work computer. Hana was making coffee when her tracking device beeped. The message was from the Imperial Court. Criminal Hana, your sentence may be reduced. Return to the Empire, publicly deny Earth's rights, and you will be freed. You have 3 days to decide. She stood in the kitchen, holding her coffee cup tightly. Freedom. A return to her old life. All she had to do was speak against Earth, against everything she had learned to love here, against Jin. Jin came home later than usual that day. His face looked tired but excited. Hana. He called as he entered the apartment. Something amazing has happened. He showed her the message on his tablet. The Earth Science Council had reviewed his environmental project. His new way of cleaning damaged soil could help terraform other planets. They wanted him to lead a new space program. This could change everything, Jin said, his eyes bright. We could help colonies on Mars. Maybe even help other worlds someday. Hana felt her heart sink. She hadn't told him about her morning message yet. How could she now, when he was so happy? They sat down to eat dinner, but Hana couldn't focus on her food. Jin noticed her quiet mood. Is everything okay? He asked softly. Hana put down her chopsticks. The Empire sent me a message, she said. They offered to free me if I speak against Earth. Jin's face grew serious. I see. He was quiet for a moment. What will you say? I don't know, Hana admitted. A month ago, I would have said yes without thinking. But now, she looked around the apartment. at the plants they had grown together, at the guitar she was learning to play, at Jin's kind face. Everything is different now. Because you've seen Earth for yourself. Because I've seen humanity through you, Hannah said. The Empire says humans are primitive, but they're wrong. You care about healing your planet. You share knowledge freely. You treat everyone with respect. She paused, gathering courage. You treated me like a person when you could have treated me like property. Jin reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was warm and gentle. Whatever you decide, I'll support you, he said. But I want you to know something. These past months with you have been the happiest of my life. Hannah felt tears in her eyes. Even with all the trouble I brought, the Empire watching us, threatening you. Even with all that, Jin smiled. You've taught me so much about the stars, about different ways of seeing things. You make me want to work harder, to prove that humanity deserves its place among the stars. Hannah looked at their joined hands. She thought about her old life in the Empire, the luxury, the privilege, the power. Then she thought about her life here, the freedom to learn, to grow, to love. I need to send them my answer, she said quietly. What will you tell them? Hannah sat up straighter, feeling stronger. I'll tell them the truth. That Earth isn't primitive at all. That humans understand things the Empire has forgotten. Kindness, respect, love. That I found something here more valuable than all the Empire's riches. Jin squeezed her hand. Outside their window, the evening star appeared in the darkening sky. Hannah knew her choice would have consequences, but for the first time in her life, she was choosing her own path. And she wasn't walking it alone. The Empire's response to Hannah's refusal came swiftly. 3 Imperial ships appeared in Earth's orbit the next morning. Officer Kai and 6 armed guards arrived at Jin's apartment building before sunrise. Hannah woke to the sound of heavy footsteps in the hallway. Jin was already up, quickly working at his computer. Earth's Defense Council is meeting right now, he told her. My supervisor is helping. We won't let them take you. The pounding on their door echoed through the apartment. By order of the Imperial Court, open this door, Officer Kai's voice commanded. Jin pressed a button on his computer, activating the building's security system. We just need to buy some time, he said quietly. He turned to Hannah. Do you trust me? She nodded without hesitation. With my life. The door shook with another round of pounding. Jin led Hannah to his home office, pressing a hidden panel in the wall. A small door opened, revealing a narrow space. Emergency shelter, he explained. All modern buildings have them. You'll be safe here. What about you? Hannah asked, her heart racing. I need to face them. Buy time for the Earth Council to act. He touched her face gently. I won't let them take you back to a life of chains. The main door began to glow red as the Empire's tools started cutting through. Hannah grabbed Jin's hand. Be careful, she whispered. I love you. Jin's eyes widened at her words, but before he could respond, the door burst open. He quickly sealed Hannah in the shelter and walked to meet the Imperial guards. Officer Kai strode in, his face dark with anger. Where is the criminal? He demanded. Hannah is under Earth's protection now, Jin said calmly. You have no right to take her. Earth has no authority here, Officer Kai sneered. The Empire's laws are supreme. Search the apartment, he ordered his guards. From her hiding place, Hannah could see through a small screen. She watched as the guards roughly searched each room, while Jin stood his ground, refusing to help them. Suddenly, Jin's computer beeped. A message appeared on the screen. Officer Kai read it, and his face turned pale. This is impossible, he muttered. Jin smiled. The Earth Defense Council has contacted your ships in orbit. They're willing to share my terraforming technology with the Empire, but only if Hannah is granted full freedom and diplomatic status. You dare to bargain with the Empire. Officer K's hand moved to his weapon. It's not a bargain, came a new voice. Hannah's father stepped into the apartment, wearing his formal imperial robes. It's a diplomatic agreement already approved by the Imperial Senate. Hannah gasped softly in her hiding place. Her father, here on Earth. Lord Minister, Officer Kai bowed quickly. We weren't informed. Because you acted without authority, Hannah's father said sternly. The Senate has been watching this situation closely. We've seen how Earth treats its people, how this human man treats my daughter. He turned to Jin. You can bring her out now. She's safe. Jin opened the hidden panel. Hannah stepped out, staring at her father in disbelief. Father, you came for me. I came because you showed me the truth, he said softly. Your reports about Earth, about their kindness and wisdom, they made me question everything we believed. He looked at Jin. This man defied an empire to protect you. That shows more nobility than all our highborn titles. Officer Kai and his guards were ordered to leave. As they walked out, Hannah's father turned to Jin. The Senate would like to discuss your terraforming project. But first, I believe my daughter has something to tell me about her future plans on Earth. Hannah looked at Jin, who smiled warmly at her. She took his hand, feeling stronger than she ever had before. Yes, father, she said. I have quite a lot to tell you. News of what happened in Jin's apartment spread quickly through both Earth and the Empire. The story of a human who defied an empire for love, and a noble who chose truth over power, caught the imagination of both worlds. 1 month after the confrontation, Hannah stood beside Jin in Earth's Global Science Center. They watched as ships from the Empire landed, carrying scientists and diplomats eager to learn about Earth's environmental technology. Your father has done amazing work, Jin said, watching as Hannah's father led a group of young imperial nobles through the center. I never expected the Empire to change so quickly. Hannah smiled, remembering how her father had returned to the Empire with a mission. He had shown the Senate videos of Earth's cities, where people of all backgrounds learned and worked together. He had presented Jin's research, proving that working with nature was more powerful than controlling it. The Empire has ruled through fear for so long, Hannah said. But fear cannot stand against kindness. Look there. She pointed to a group of Imperial students talking excitedly with Earth scientists. They're learning that power isn't about control. It's about helping others grow. Jin's terraforming project had become the bridge between their worlds. Every day, more ships arrived carrying people from distant Empire planets. They came to learn Earth's ways of healing damaged worlds. But they learned much more than that. Yesterday, I saw an Imperial noble helping a human child plant a tree, Jin told Hannah. A year ago, that noble would have considered it beneath their dignity. Now they understand that every living thing has value. Hannah thought about her own journey. She had arrived on Earth as a prisoner, expecting to find a primitive world. Instead, she had discovered what true civilization meant. She had learned that real strength came from kindness, not fear. More nobles are speaking up now, she said, asking why we need to conquer worlds when we could help them instead. The Empire is changing, one heart at a time. They walked through the Science Center's garden, where Earth plants grew beside samples from Empire worlds. Scientists from both worlds worked together, sharing knowledge freely. Hannah saw Officer Kai among them, no longer wearing his military uniform. He was helping to organize transport for more Imperial students who wanted to study on Earth. He apologized to me yesterday, Hannah told Jin. Said he had been wrong about humans, about everything. Jin squeezed her hand gently. Change isn't easy, but when people see a better way to live, they naturally want to follow it. That evening, they hosted a dinner at their apartment. Hannah's father was there, along with Jin's colleagues and several Imperial scientists. The conversation flowed freely between Earth languages and Imperial tongues. The food was a mix of both worlds' cuisines. I received another message from the Senate today, Hannah's father announced during dinner. They've approved the creation of a permanent Earth Empire cultural exchange program. Young people from both worlds will have the chance to live and learn together. Everyone at the table cheered. Hannah looked around at the happy faces, remembering how she had once believed these two worlds could never understand each other. Now she knew better. Love had built a bridge between the stars. Later, standing on their balcony under the night sky, Hannah rested her head on Jin's shoulder. "Do you ever think about how different things would be if the Empire hadn't sent me here to punish me?" she asked. Jin smiled. "Sometimes the best things in life come disguised as challenges. The Empire tried to teach you about human weakness. Instead, you taught them about human strength." Spring came to New Seoul, bringing cherry blossoms and gentle rain. The garden of the Earth Empire Cultural Center was filled with flowers from both worlds, their colors bright against the morning sky. Today was a special day, the first official marriage between a human and a member of the Empire. Hannah stood in a preparation room, wearing a dress that combined Earth and Empire styles. The white fabric shimmered with threads of starlight, a gift from her mother. Her father waited outside to walk her down the aisle. "Are you nervous?" asked Minji, Jin's sister, who had become like a sister to Hannah too. She helped adjust the traditional earth flower crown on Hannah's head. "A little," Hannah admitted. "A year ago, I was a prisoner. Now I'm making history." The ceremony space had been designed to honor both cultures. The traditional arch was made of living plants from Jin's laboratory, each one helping to clean the air. Stars from the Empire's flag twinkled beside Earth's symbols of peace and unity. Hundreds of guests filled the seats. Empire nobles sat next to Earth scientists. Students from the exchange program watched with bright eyes, seeing proof that their two worlds could come together in love. Jin waited at the front, wearing formal Earth clothes with Empire colors. He looked nervous but happy. Next to him stood his best friend from the Science Center, holding the rings they had specially made. Each ring contained a small piece of Earth crystal and a starstone from Hannah's homeworld. The music began, a beautiful mix of Earth melodies and Empire harmonies. Hannah's father took her arm, and they began to walk down the aisle. She saw Jin's face light up when he saw her, and all her nervousness melted away. "You look beautiful," Jin whispered when she reached him. The ceremony combined traditions from both worlds. They exchanged rings and promises in both languages. When the Earth Minister and Empire official together declared them married, the whole room burst into happy cheers. At the celebration afterward, people from both worlds danced together, ate foods from both cultures, and shared stories of hope. Hannah's father gave a speech that made everyone cry happy tears. "Once, we thought Earth was primitive," he said. "We sent my daughter here as punishment. Instead, she found wisdom we had forgotten. She found love we had denied. Today, we don't just celebrate a marriage. We celebrate a new way of living, where power comes from kindness, not fear." Jin's mother spoke next. "When my son told me he was protecting an Empire criminal, I was scared," she admitted. "But Hannah showed us that people are more than their labels. Love is more powerful than any law." As the sun set, Hannah and Jin slipped away to their favorite spot, the balcony of their apartment. The city lights sparkled below them, and the stars shone above. "What are you thinking about?" Jin asked, holding her close. "About how the Empire tried to punish me with you," Hannah said with a smile. "They thought sending me to Earth would teach me humanity's weakness. Instead, you taught me humanity's greatest strength, the power to love, to grow, to change." Jin touched the ring on his finger, watching the Earth crystal and starstone shine together. "And you taught us that the most advanced civilization isn't the one with the most power, but the one with the most kindness." They looked up at the stars together. Somewhere up there, other nobles were questioning the old ways. Other humans were reaching out to the stars. Change was spreading through both worlds, one heart at a time. "Ready for our next adventure?" Jin asked. Hannah smiled. "With you? Always." The night wind carried the sound of celebration from below, Earth songs and Empire melodies mixing in the air. Two worlds had come together, and nothing would ever be the same. What had started as punishment had become a gift, not just for Hannah and Jin, but for all their peoples. Love, they had proved, could bridge even the space between stars.